Sermon on Matthew 17, verse 14 to 21. Matthew records that when Jesus and 3 of his disciples descended from the mountain, a multitude was gathered, and a man approached with a desperate plea concerning his afflicted son. The passage reads, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed. For oftentimes he falleth into the fire, and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him." Close quote. This scene unfolds immediately after the revelation of the Son in glory upon the mountain. From that moment of heavenly manifestation, the narrative returns to the troubled condition of Israel among the crowds below. The contrast is striking. Divine glory revealed above, human inability displayed below. The Father's plea. The Father approaches Jesus with reverence, kneeling before him and addressing him as Lord. His request reveals both desperation and recognition of authority. The suffering of the Son is described in severe terms. The child is repeatedly thrown into danger, demonstrating the destructive nature of the affliction. Matthew identifies the condition as being caused by a demon. The language of being cast into fire and water reflects the violent control of the unclean spirit over the boy. Such scenes were not uncommon during the ministry of Jesus, for his appearance marked the decisive confrontation between the kingdom of heaven and the powers that held Israel in bondage. The disciples' inability. The Father reports that he had first brought the boy to the disciples, but they were unable to cure him. This failure sets the stage for Jesus' response. The disciples had previously been given authority over unclean spirits, Matthew 10:1. Yet in this moment, they were powerless. Their inability does not indicate that the authority given to them was ineffective. Rather, it reveals the weakness of understanding within that generation. The disciples were still learning the nature of the authority that had been entrusted to them and the reality of the kingdom that had drawn near. Jesus' rebuke of the generation. Jesus responds with a sharp declaration. Open quote. "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you?" Close quote. The rebuke is directed not merely at the disciples, but at the broader generation standing before him. Throughout the Gospel of Matthew, the generation of Israel during the ministry of Jesus is described as resistant to the revelation being presented to them. The language echoes earlier prophetic indictments against the Hebrew scriptures. A faithless and perverse generation reflects covenant unfaithfulness, people who possess the scriptures and promises, yet failed to recognize the one to whom those promises pointed. Jesus' question, "How long shall I be with you?" anticipates the limited duration of his earthly ministry. His presence among them was temporary, and the unfolding events were moving toward their climax. The authority of the Son. After the rebuke, Jesus commands that the boy be brought to him. Matthew records simply, open quote, "And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour." Close quote. The healing occurs immediately. There is no struggle, ritual, or prolonged process. The authority of Jesus over the demonic realm is absolute. His word alone is sufficient to end the affliction. In the narrative of Matthew, such miracles are not merely acts of compassion, but signs of the arrival of the kingdom promised in the prophets. The presence of the Messiah signified the defeat of the oppressive forces that had held the covenant people captive. The disciples' question. After the crowd disperses, the disciples approach Jesus privately and ask, open quote, "Why could not we cast him out?" Close quote. Their question reveals both humility and confusion. They had seen demons cast out before. They had participated in such authority earlier in the ministry, yet this situation had exposed their limitation. Jesus answers, open quote, "Because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you." Close quote. The mustard seed was known for its small size, yet it produced a large plant. The imagery emphasizes that genuine trust in the authority of God does not depend upon magnitude, but upon its object. Moving mountains was a familiar idiom in Jewish teaching for overcoming what appeared impossible. In the context of Jesus' ministry, it pointed to the authority given to his followers within the unfolding work of the kingdom. Prayer and fasting. The passage concludes with the statement, Open quote, howbeit this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Close quote. This remark emphasizes dependence upon God rather than reliance upon human ability. The authority exercised by the disciples was never autonomous. It operated within the relationship between the Son, the Father, and those who were participating in the mission of the kingdom. The broader context. Matthew places this event within the larger movement of the gospel narrative. The revelation on the mountain had affirmed the identity of Jesus as the beloved Son. The events below the mountain demonstrate the condition of the generation to whom he had come. The disciples stood in a transitional moment within redemptive history. They were witnesses of the kingdom's arrival and participants in its proclamation, yet the fullness of what was being accomplished had not yet reached its climactic fulfillment. In this account, the authority of Jesus over the demonic realm is unmistakable. His word brings immediate liberation, revealing that the dominion of darkness could not withstand the presence of the Son, who had come to accomplish the purposes promised throughout the Scriptures.